Hello there. Welcome to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and tonight I have a special layout for you and a sneak peek of some brand new product. We're going to be creating with the Florals in Bloom Suite Collection, which includes the Florals in Bloom Designer Series paper, two different stamp and die sets, Pretty Florals and Sweet Blooms. Now, Sweet Blooms here has some lovely layered titles, so you can have more intricate pieces on the front and then a shadow behind the title. And you can see the size. I'm just going to hold that up to my hand so you can see that they're nice, large titles. So then you can do combinations like Have a Lovely Day, It's a Lovely Day, Let Joy Bloom, Bloom Where You're Planted. There's lots of different combinations with that. And then there's also some florals or layered florals in that. Now, the Pretty Florals is all about the layered florals. Gorgeous, gorgeous layered florals. And you can have just layered die-cut flowers. You can have layered stamped flowers or a combination of both layered and dyed flowers. And I love them. There are so many dies that come in this set, and we're really going to be focusing on this stamp and die set this evening to create what looks like watercolor floral backgrounds. Now, we have some brand new in colors, and so we have in color pearls that are included in this set. And then let's take a look at the designer series paper that's included. So you have a really large focal floral with each pattern, and then a smaller or more muted pattern on the back side. So you can see all of those patterns here, lots and lots of bright, busy florals, and then some muted patterns. And then no cardstock comes in the Suite collection, but it does show some possibles, and some of those are our brand new in colors, and we'll be talking about those. Now, some of the dies in the Pretty Florals, in addition to making beautiful layered flowers, also cut flowers right out of the background of the designer series paper. I have really grown to love this so much because when you want quick, beautiful florals for cards and layouts, you can just use those dies and cut those right out of the background, and they are perfectly colored right out of the gate. You don't have to color them or stamp them. Now, we actually are focusing on stamping this evening, and we're going to be creating with this inspiration photo of my granddaughter Avery Jean on her first communion. Her first communion was this last weekend, which was also my birthday and the full Easter story at church. So it was so special. Now you can see my chicken scratch here. I'm using I am inspired tonight by a layout in the annual catalog, which I'm not allowed to show you yet. And it does use the whole Floral in Bloom Suite collection, but primarily focuses on the Pretty Floral stamp and dies and the Sweet Blooms stamp and dies. In fact, we're really only going to be using one sheet of pattern paper, and so you could even get by with cardstock only on this set. So what I usually do when I see a layout that I want to case, or I see a layout in the catalog that I love, one of the feature layouts, is I sort of try to sort out what I think is in it. Now, the cool thing is we have recipes. Stampin' Up! Has recipes that help give you hints and tell you what was used on feature artwork that's within the catalog. And you'll be able to download that after the catalog launches on May 6th. So I've sorted out what I think I'm going to use and how many I need of each one. So I'm using some of our new inks here. So this is Timid Tiger. It's a really beautiful orange, and I'm going to do the more intricate die with Timid Tiger, and then I'm going to come back over the top with another new ink called Darling Duckling. I don't like it full strength, so I'm going to do second generation, which is called Stamping Off. I'm going to stamp off first and then stamp over the top, and that's going to be so much softer. Now we're going to create a few of every flower in the Pretty Florals, and then we're going to pull it all together. Now the Pretty Florals, or actually the Florals in Bloom Suite, was inspired by by Watercolor Hand Painted Florals, which is such a neat concept. So the artist featured hand-drawn and hand-colored designs and then applied watercolors to the paper and let them spread and added details with pencils to be able to create the tone-on-tone flowers. And they're absolutely gorgeous. So for these leaves, I used garden green. For this next set, the more intricate stamp is going to be petunia pop. Actually, I'm so sorry, strawberry slush, one of our brand new colors. Yes, it's so gorgeous. And then I couldn't decide if I would use bubble bath or if I would use stamping off of the strawberry slush. And I decided to go with the stamping off. So I'm going to stamp off and then back on with the strawberry slush. Now the strawberry slush is yet another brand new in color coming on May 6th that was a color or a previous in color, which was before my time, but Stampin' Up! Demonstrators everywhere are very happy that strawberry slush has come back or come home. They love it and I love it too. It's absolutely gorgeous. So now I'm just filling in all of those details. Not every one of my stamps are perfect. Sometimes I like to stamp extra just in case. But when you look at the style of a layout that we're going to create this evening, you're going to have grace with yourself. They don't have to be perfect because a lot of the florals are going to blend together, excuse me. Now we're going to do some more of those leaves. We're going to stamp quite a few of these leaves. We're going to do some in green apple. We're going to do some in garden green, and we're going to be using a variety of both light and dark greens. Now we're going to grab the next floral. So this one actually has 3 parts. So it has a top, more intricate stamp, and then a bottom base or shadow stamp. So we're going to come in with Petunia Pop, and Petunia Pop is going to be the more intricate stamp, and it's going to be full strength. And then we're going to come back in here with Bubble Bath, and it's going to look perfect together. Now I try it full strength. I don't like it full strength, so I decide to stamp off. So you'll hear those terms used interchangeably. So I have always learned it as second generation. So first generation is full strength, second generation is stamping off once, third generation would be stamping off twice, and so on and so forth. And it's just referred to as stamping off in Stampin' Up!, which totally makes sense. Okay, I'm happy with those. Now we're going to move on to yet another 3-part stamp. It has a small, medium, and a large. It has a more intricate, and actually I skipped ahead to a multi-leaf. I'm doing this one in garden green. Now I think that I'm only going to use this stamp in garden green, and later on in the video I decide that I need some lighter tones, and I do a few of these in green apple. And this one also has a coordinating die that cuts these right out. Now we're moving on to that next 3-part stamp that has a small, medium, and large floral. It has a more intricate top and a shadow base again. So we're going to use Summer Splash Full Strength for the intricate part, or the more detailed. And then we're going to do second generation again on the interior, and it's going to be so pretty. I know at this point in the video you're probably thinking, good gracious, when are we going to stop stamping and get into the meat of it? Again, you can fast forward through the stamping, but it's interesting. I do often have a lot of people that enjoy seeing the stamping because they're learning or they just like to see the process. And then there are other people who feel like it's like watching paint dry. So we're going to come in again with this one, and this is from the Sweet Blooms. So we've switched now from Pretty Florals to Sweet Blooms, and we're using the Timid Tiger, another one of the 2025-2026 in colors. And then we're coming back in with an overlay leaf or leaf and stem stamp in garden green. So pretty. So pretty. And then we're going to go ahead while we're at it, and we're going to do a couple things. We're stamping Lovely, and we're going to use yet another new in color called Secret Sea. It's really, really pretty. For those of you that were familiar with Close to My Heart, it's really close to Harbor, and it can almost look black in certain lights, but it has a really, really deep blue in it. And then we're also going to stamp Day. Now, later on in the video, I'm also going to just die cut both sets of the shadow and the front of Lovely. I do end up going with the die cut version, but I wanted you to see how beautiful it stamps as well. So you could stamp the title directly on your page. Now I'm matching up my dies from both Pretty Florals and Sweet Blooms to the stamped pieces, and I'm going to run those through the die cutter, and then I'll fill up my junk gypsy tray with all the bits. And this, my friends, was the heavy lifting. Easy peasy from here, although it does take some time to layer these stamps and dies to create our own background that looks like hand-painted florals. It's so beautiful. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I actually use washi tape or a painter's tape, and I actually put all the dies over the top at once and then run washi tape over the front. You can die cut right through the washi tape, and then you can cut multiple dies at once, and it makes it go so much faster. So now I'm going to sort all my bits into my junk gypsy tray. Many of these bits are going to have dimensionals on the back of them. So most of the leaves and stems are going to be adhered to the background flush, and most of the florals are going to be popped up. But here you can see the stamped Lovely. So I stamped Lovely in Secret Sea and then die cut it out with the Lovely. And then I also created the shadow background in white and the front Lovely in Secret Sea cardstock. So you can see they're both equally as pretty. I do end up going with the layered die cut. So here we have Avery Jean, and this is just a photo of her sitting in the windowsill before her first communion. And I'm going to add a banner to the background of it. I don't know yet what I'm going to add. I don't know what color of a banner I'm going to add. And honestly, I decide not to decide until I get the background done, because that could completely change my idea. I also feel like we might have a white frame around the whole thing, or we might use a pattern paper frame around the whole thing. So the first thing that I need to do is create the actual background. And so I start out with like 9 3/4 by 9 3/4, I think. And then I end up cutting it down a little bit. Actually, I think I start out with 10 by 10. And then I end up cutting it down to 9.5 by 9.5 because I feel like it's taking too many florals to fill it up. Now I know that I'm only going to have one photo, and the one photo is going to have a white photo mat, probably about 1/8 of an inch. The photo that I have right now is 4 by 6, and then I'm going to have a banner of some sort under it. It could be cardstock, it could be pattern paper. So what I want to do is I drew lines around the 4 by 6 photo where I think the photo is going to go. Now it's going to be bigger than that because it's going to have a banner background. So here is the fun. We get to dive right in and we get to arrange all of these florals, and they're just going to be like a basket of flowers just fell all over the background, and it's going to be gorgeous. So if you look at Avery Jean's dress, it is very neutral. She has lace over a light brown, and it's very, very soft and subtle and earthy toned. She's sitting in a windowsill with a brown seat, and then there's a tiny bit of green and brown grass in the background because we don't have a lot of green in our spring around here. Our grass hasn't turned green yet. And so it's a lot of neutral tones. And so I really want the color to be all in the background. And so we're going to arrange. So I start arranging, and then I decide it would be so much easier if I just put it in place the first time around, instead of getting placement, lifting it all up, and then putting it back in place. But I do want to get at least this bottom row figured out because I have to decide if I'm going to cut down the willow white or the white willow piece. And I do end up cutting that down to 9.5 by 9.5, and that's what we create the floral background on. Now, after I get that right, I'm actually going to be speeding up this video a lot because it's all about placing in the background. So what I want to accomplish is I want to be able to have each of the florals barely touch each other. There's going to be gaps of white in between the florals, but the florals are literally going to fill up the entire background. And then we're going to cover that floral background with a base. Now here I decide to put my piece on black cardstock just so you can see it. We are not going to use this black cardstock, but it was a little bit hard to see what I was doing with the white on white. So now you can see I'm putting these leaves flush, and then I'm making, adding dimensionals. So I have both my mini dimensionals out and my larger regular size dimensionals out. I do actually end up being able to fit a large dimensional on the back of everything. I don't end up needing the mini dimensionals. And so almost all of these, the base leaves are adhered flush, and then the florals on all of them are popped up. Some of them I know are going to hit underneath the banner that's underneath the photo. So some of them I don't need to finish them all the way because they're going to be covered up. Some of them I do need to finish because they'll be peeking out, and so they still need to look whole underneath. And there is no rhyme or reason. It honestly is just playing and tucking things in. Now mine doesn't end up identical to my inspiration feature layout. I end up, because I do think that sometimes in the catalog, maybe they're doing like an odd size. Like maybe sometimes they're doing like a 6x6 or an 8.5 by 11 because they only have so much catalog space. And if they want to show something the size, that looks like a layout and they're using a large 12 by 12, they can't always use up that amount of paper in the catalog or that amount of pages. So a lot of times if I'm casing something from the catalog, especially a layout, I may have to adjust the sizes of like my photos and of my bits and my pieces or my background. But it's so easy to do to just adjust it to a 12 by 12, especially a layout like this where you're just adding so many floral bits. So I'm going to continue on and I'm going to be going through all of the flowers in the junk gypsy tray. Now, when I get to the end and all I have left are leaves, I have a few gaps. So I do go back and I do end up making a few more of the timid tiger and the darling duckling flowers, not only because I needed to fill in some gaps, but because I needed a little bit more balance of color. So all of these colors have already been predetermined to go together, and they're going to create the bright, the bold, the colorful and fun behind a more neutral photo. I love that photo of Avery Jean, and like I said, or if I haven't said it, it was a very special day. It was my birthday. It was her first communion, and at church was the full Easter story that day. So everything was perfect, and then we had a lovely lunch where we were able to celebrate Avery Jean's first communion, and I have a lot of photos from this past weekend because we had, a volleyball tournament on Saturday. We had first communion on Sunday. Saturday night, we had my birthday cake. And then also just we played a lot on Saturday after the volleyball game, so I have lots of pictures of softball, and I have so much of this weekend, and I also have pictures of Avery Jean at the church, and then of the whole family, so I'll be doing a lot more of her first communion, but I wanted one gorgeous, over-the-top, beautiful page of just her and her special day. And it was so special that it landed on my birthday as well. So I'm a little bit all over the place, but sometimes when I'm arranging around and I have some pieces that are longer or wider, I kind of know where I want them to land. So I might skip to a corner and skip around a little bit to fill in. And it's so fun, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty. So you could see in the junk gypsy tray, for some reason I have extra of the double garden green leaves. I have a few of the petunia pop round flowers, and then on the glass mat, I have a couple of the longer strawberry slush flowers, and that's about all I have left. And so this is where I realize I do need to stop and create more of the darling duckling flowers. And so you can see I've added those. I also created a few more of the granny apple leaves. I had a lot of garden green and I felt like I needed to add some granny apple. And so I'm struggling with just a few spots. I don't want it to be too squished, but I don't want it to have too big of a white gap either. So I'm just kind of working on the finishing touches, and then I'll snip all the way around the white, which I've already done that a couple times to see what I'm working with, and then we'll decide on the frame. And we are almost on the home stretch once we get done with the background. So layouts like this do take a little bit of heavy lifting in terms of making all the bits and arranging all the bits. It does take a while, but there's never been a time when I haven't taken the time to do it where I haven't been happy that I did. These aren't the types of layouts that you're going to create every day, but I love starting an album or starting a theme within an album with a gorgeous focal layout. And then I might move into some simple layouts or some more elevated layouts mixed in with some pocket pages. So I do all of it in my albums, but I love it when you open up the album to a wow, and where it sort of sets the tone for the theme. So I often will have an odd page that starts the front of an album, right? Because you have the left cover and then you have a single page. And so I love having an opener that is a nice feature layout, and it gives me an opportunity to really have something special to go with something, some of the photos that are super special to me. Avery Jean is such a lovely human, and I was so proud of her. The only funny thing that she did say after she did her first communion, her classmate Riker was sitting in front, and they both kind of like looked at each other at the exact same time, and they were like, "That tastes like styrofoam." So we got a real big giggle, and you forget what it's like. And you're kind of nervous and you don't know what's going to happen. And then you taste the wafer for the first time and you're like, ooh, interesting. And so we all forget about our first time, other than it being such an important decision in life. And so I was so proud of Avery Jean for making that decision and doing her classes and getting there. So now you can see I have the secret C, and I'm struggling a little bit because it's pretty dainty, and there's nothing dainty about my hands. And so I do just end up kind of using a little bit of the fine tip glue, the precision glue. I love that. That's one of my favorite Stampin' Up! Products because it doesn't plug, which is a big deal to me. And then it's very, very fine for those little intricate dies. So I'm loving it. So beautiful. I love it so much. It right away in the catalog, and let me look here because I know some people have received their catalogs, but right away in the catalog, it struck me. I loved it. Page 47, if you've been lucky enough to get your catalog early. Now I'm just shopping some backgrounds. So, some of them are just too bright. So I just am really struggling because in the catalog, it's white on white. It's actually a frame, but But so a thicker frame, like maybe 1.5 inches would be great. And I actually go with this Secret Sea pattern, which is a little bit opposite of what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to go with white, and I actually second guessed myself here in a little bit. So I would love to know if you think I made the right choice or if I should have went with the white. And we're going to look at it here in a minute. I love them both. I really love the white on white, but I really love this Secret Sea. And at first it doesn't feel like it's going to come together, but it does. So what I've done is I've went ahead and centered this 9.5 inch piece onto the 12 by 12 willow white. And the willow white actually has some scuffs on it and stuff, and that's okay because I'm going to cover it with a frame. Now you could have probably covered it with the frame without a back, but I really wanted a back on that. And so now I have foam tape on the Secret Sea pattern from the Florals in Bloom Designer Series paper. And now is the big decision. And this was a tough one too. I was trying to decide the photo mat. So in the featured artwork on page 47 of the catalog, they actually use, I believe, bubble bath, and they do some stamping in the background. And I try it here, but because I went with the Secret Sea pattern that has lines going up and down, the lines in the stamp set going up and down when you stamp bubble bath on bubble bath are a little bit conflicting because it's too much like the background. So I would have had lines on my cardstock and then the same kind of lines in the Secret Sea. So I couldn't reconcile that. It wasn't quite working. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just go with plain cardstock. Maybe I'll pull in the Secret Sea pattern, and voila, guess what? I remembered about the strawberry slush in color, and it's perfect. It just pulls in and draws from the longer strawberry slush florals in there, and it pulls it all together. And wow, what a color combo of Secret Sea and strawberry slush. I can see myself doing lots of things with that color combination. So now my strawberry slush is 4.5 by 7. I made it a little longer because I'm going to dovetail or notch it into a banner. So I went up in the center about 1/2 inch, and I want it to be a pretty shallow banner. I don't want it to be real deep because I want to be able to fit the photo on that. So I have 4 1/8 by 6 1/8 willow white matte on Avery Jean's photo, and then I have the strawberry slush. So simple and not much to it, but with that, watercolor floral background, do we need much else? We do not. So now I'm going to arrange the lovely over the front of the photo, and then we'll put day. So I wasn't quite sure what to do with day, so I just kind of slanted it, and that's how the prototype or the inspiration layout is in the catalog. What I started to say is, for those that are on the automatic mailer, the catalogs weren't supposed to arrive till the first week in May, but many of my paper crafters said that they're already there. And then some of you who send out catalogs, of course, you've received your boxes of catalogs and you're able to send them out. So here is the Keeping Tabs punch. And I've punched out a few tabs. So I did that Secret Sea pattern, Secret Sea cardstock, and the strawberry slush cardstock. I'll probably put a little bit of journaling up at the top, but I'm getting happy. I'm getting happy. The only thing I added was a few of those in color flat pearls, and I only used the Secret Sea. I didn't add any of the colors. I just added a few randomly in there and below the title. I hope you love it. I love it. It was so much fun. And stay tuned. May 6th, the Florals in Bloom Sweet Collection will drop. Thanks so much for watching, excuse me, and I hope you'll hit like, subscribe, the notifications bell, share, and of course my favorite thing is if you shoot me a comment. Happy scrapping. Bye-bye.